Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town. So, missionary coming home, man. I'm a little leery that we're not going to be at her level, you know? We're just not. Like I don't want to derail. Like I don't want to be a speed bump in her momentum. And I'd love to have the Freeman family kind of peaking with her, right?
Yeah.
Like being in, best of times, worst of times, you talk about that variance and that wave. I want to be cresting, right? I want to be cresting when she comes home. So it's something special, not like, oh man,
what were these clowns doing?
Yeah, and so I don't know what it was like when Sydney came home, right? I don't know what that was like for you guys. I mean, she probably wasn't around very much.
She was around for 2 days.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I think, for like my mindset for Sydney was, I think I wanted to be on the same level, right? Where she was at spiritually, but I sort of wanted to model that re-entrance into society, because that's a weird thing, right? You come home and I think that I wanted her to, and I don't know that I was successful at that. I think she struggled a little bit, kind of getting her feet back under her, after being a missionary. But yeah, that was my strategy. I wanted to, kind of show her that you can be in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and still be at a high level,
yeah, and
still be impacting people's lives. So that was sort of my goal. I don't know how well I accomplished that, but that was the goal, man. So yeah, you're going to have Grace back for how long? For 3-4 months?
Oh, no, she's going to be back. She might be back a month.
Okay. So short timer, huh?
Yeah. Here's what I'm learning, man. We've talked about this on the show before.
Yeah.
This idea of we all see this person flourishing and thriving in their strengths, and we don't necessarily acknowledge the journey. We don't acknowledge this idea that maybe the thing they're really good at was something that they struggled with, and it was a weakness.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my mind, I'm finding that my strengths sometimes are my weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know where I'm strong, and it's almost like I can compensate. Like I can turn that and compensate for other aspects of my life where I'm not. And so I wrestle with this idea of like, man, Nate Ward, all in on my strengths, and I get that, but like sometimes I can wing it because I know I'm a good winger.
Yeah.
Like I'm not diligent.
Yeah.
And I'm not consistent, and I'm not perseverant, and I'm not going to get into I'm nots because I don't like that talk.
Right.
But sometimes I'm not working on the foundation because of my strengths.
Yeah.
Of being able to on the fly, being able to, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I could bury that strength and grind sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I like it.
Because you forget sometimes, hey, the reason why that comes easy to is because you were a grinder. Well, like, how can you always grind? Right? How can you never lose that mentality? How can you be like, there was a time when this didn't come easy. Go get that again.
Yeah.
And like reset that.
Yeah. I think, we talk a lot about together. We talk a lot about the idea of like self-assessment, right? And being able to be honest in our assessment and say, hey, this is where I'm lacking a little bit. But the real question is, what do we do with the assessment? Right? I mean, it's like, because I'm guilty of that. Like, I'll be like, all right, dude, here's where you really gotta, do something different. And then I don't, I know this is, now I've identified this is my weakness, but I don't attack it, And I think that's for me, like that's where I want to be, is like, this is my weakness and this is what it kind of goes back to that idea of like, our strengths, they become our strengths because it's what we're seeking. You're good at what you're good at.
Here's the thing, like, I'm about attacking it.
Yeah.
I don't kill it. Right? Like that idea of weakness, right? I know who I am, and I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at, and I'll attack what I'm not good at for 2 days.
Yeah, no, right? 100%.
And then I'm on to something else because maybe I found a strength and I'm like, let's just go play in that.
Yeah, right.
Let's just go play in that strength because that comes easy to you. You can roll out of bed and do that. It's like, what about that thing you attacked for a couple of days and it's not dead?
Yeah,
it's attack something, freaking kill it. And then on to the next, because there's always going to be a next, because that's the refining, right?
Yeah. And I don't want to be a proponent of have like everything digital, right? But I did. So I've had this exact same thought, and I downloaded this app, which is like basically it's the most basic of all apps. It's like a reminder pops up every day. Did you do this thing? And if you did it, you press a button and it checks it. Right? That's it. And so
one thing.
It's one thing. You can do as many as you want, but I have it set up for one thing. And I'm doing this, and then what it does is it tells you like, okay, you've almost created a habit. You're 20% there. And it kind of gives you this.
I need this app.
Okay,
I need this app.
And it'll fluctuate, right? Because I was at 51%, Mike, and then the other day I was at 43. So like that's sort of been my strategy, is that like every day I have it set up to remind me at a certain time when I know that I'll have a little bit of time to attack that thing, to accomplish that thing. So that's been my strategy lately.
So I can't believe I'm going to say this, right? Because I can't stand this guy, even though he was a former Seattle Seahawk.
Okay, let's hear it.
Greg Olson, I guess, is a great guy.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this.
And I actually heard an interview, and I'm like, dang it, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Right? But he's talking about discipline. He's talking about some of these things. He's talking about a mindset. Let's be real. He was promoting a draft event, right? NFL draft is tomorrow. Brian Grove's going to take the freaking rest of the week off, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
But he said something, and I think I've heard it before, but he said the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Interesting.
And talking about the idea of like, what's the difference when you get to a player who's going to make it?
Yeah.
Right. And the idea is like, well, that it's almost like Allen Iverson, right? We're talking about practice.
Right.
Yeah. Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Absolutely.
So when you're assessing talent at that level, when you're like, who's going to make it, who isn't going to make it, how do they do the little thing? Because that is indicative of how they're going to do everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So when you talk about, and we understand that, amazing things come out of these little things. But I love that idea. Pop up like in your face, kill this thing, get to 100% with this thing, and then reload, right? Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Are you a little lazy in your prayers? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
That's going to be lazy in your faith. That's going to be lazy in your scriptures. That's going to be lazy in your magnifying of your calling. That's going to be, right? It erodes it.
Yeah.
It erodes it. And this very thing that we're concerned about in ourselves and in the lives of other people, it's present because we let it slip in. Right? This lackadaisical attitude about this one little thing. And Greg Olson nailed it. I hate Greg Olson. Carolina Panthers killed us down the seam. He's a great tight end, right? Probably going to the Hall of Fame. But I think Bill Belichick would be the same thing, right? You kill it on the detail. You kill it on the detail because the detail is the way you do that one little thing is the way you're going to do everything. In my head, right? And 2, heartbroken. I had a Temple Recommend interview with a dear brother. Just met him, right? First time in this sacred experience, and he's getting emotional. He's getting choked up, and he's talking about he just wants more from life. I want more from my life, right? Talking about the changes that he's made, and talking about this quest of like, I know God's got more for me. And I've not let him down, but I've not lived up, right?
Yeah.
I've not lived up. And I just think to myself, like, I think there's a little bit of that in all of us. And I think, like, it's important that we seek out what is, man, he's got more. He's got more for you. He's got more for me. He's got more for my family, and he's rooting for us to tap into that more. And we're like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Cup's kind of full. He's like, I got a bigger cup.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, and we've talked a lot about this, but I am sort of in this, like this, I don't know, dude, I'm like in this path of like, what are you seeking? Like that's been a big thing in my mind lately. Just, going after the things that I know are going to try. I want to tap into them more. I think we all do. And so for me, that's been the thought process is, it's deleting things that need to be deleted and enhancing things that need to be enhanced.
Well, let's talk about the deleting, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this deleting. I had a conversation. We were talking work related, but I think I've used this analogy maybe even on the show. We're 100 plus episodes. Chances are people are going to hear something more than once, but
yeah,
we were talking professionally. We were talking about character, and assuming conflicts, right? Assuming ethical crises coming in your path. And so I use this analogy of a bucket, and the bucket was labeled character. And as a leader, you're trying to do everything you can to build up that character, right? Fill up that bucket. And situations come up, some intentional, some unintentional, that, let's say you're filling that bucket with character, you're filling it, and someone comes by with a drill bit, and pokes a hole in the side of your bucket. You asked you to make a decision, and maybe you make the wrong decision, and now you lack some character in that person's eyes, and you're leaking out character from that bucket, right?
Right.
And I think that drill bits come in all shapes and sizes, little bits, big bits. But the idea is that life is presenting us as people trying to live rich lives. Life is presenting us opportunities to build character, and there are challenges to that character. There are challenges to that process. And I think that when you talk about deleting things, we got to identify those drill bits.
Yeah, right.
We got to identify those things that either we're doing, other people are doing to us. And before long, if you don't identify it, you're in trouble, right? You're out.
Yeah,
either your capacity is limited because, the bucket's going to leak down till it hits the hole and it won't load up anymore, right? You can fill it. It's still going to leak out to the hole. And, in some cases, it's going to be a 1/2-inch plug at the bottom and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we have eyes to see opportunities to gain, opportunities to build character. But man, when you got maybe toxic relationships, you got toxic habits, those things, you got to understand that is intentionally designed to just rob you of that.
Yeah. Right? And I think, the ability to identify those things is it takes work, and it takes the ability to be honest with yourself. But I think also, we talked about this, you and I have talked about this before, this idea of it takes a village. I mean, you got to surround yourself with people that are willing to be honest with you too. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think that's important, man. I think that we can self-correct all we want, but it sure would be nice to be able to sit down with a group of people and be like, hey, how are things going? Have someone say, man, it's not, you could be a whole lot better, or you could be doing things a little bit different. I think that's important, So I think there's, it's a process, right? Nobody wants.
Let me read this. Let me read this to you.
Go ahead.
So, Creating Magic is the book. Lee Cockrell's the author, and he says this, right? The idea is, as you develop character, you develop trustworthiness. People trust you, and you come from this place of like, he knows what he's talking about because he's walking it, right? So he says, when you have that moral authority, people will trust you and believe in you, and then you can accomplish anything you dream of. So when I'm hanging out with these folks and we're going over this book and I'm having this conversation about this particular quote, I throw out some knots in that quote. Yeah. If that is true, then the opposite of that is true. When you do not have that moral authority, people will not trust you, nor believe in you, and then you cannot accomplish anything that you dream of. And you think about moral authority as men, as fathers.
Yeah.
We've all been in these places where you're trying to call a kid on it and you don't have the moral credibility because you're not there.
Right.
And it's like, they're not going to trust you. It's not going to work because you got no chops. You got no money in the bank in that category. You're bankrupt when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we try to develop that character so that we can be an asset to someone else. If you're on equal ground, you can't lift.
Yeah.
You got to get leverage in life so that you can lift other people around you. And I think sometimes those drill bits, I mean, they sneak up on you, and all of a sudden you go to talk to your kid about something. It's like, Dad, can you talk about that?
Yeah, right.
That's a scary place. You don't ever want to be there. Right?
Well, it's a scary place. And that place, I was telling Ricky the other day, I said, we had our daughter home, was visiting from college, and I was telling her, I'm like, man, it's a heck of a lot easier to be a parent to a little kid. It's a lot easier because you can kind of tower over them. You can kind of, everything you have is experiences they haven't had. Well, now they're catching up with me, They've got some experiences that are going on, and they're coming to me and saying, Dad, what about this? Or, and so, yeah, I mean, you've got.
Well, and on that same subject.
Yeah.
Your experiences when you come at your older kids better be current.
Yeah.
And they better 100%. Be recent.
Yeah.
Right. You're coming to them with 1995 stuff, kind of like that idea of like, when was I at my best? Right.
100%.
If you're coming at them like, yeah, man, in 1995, let me tell you about this. And it's like, it's irrelevant, Dad.
Yeah.
It's not 1995. And yeah, truth doesn't change, but the context that we find ourselves in are challenging, and the challenges are unique, and they're not 1995 anymore.
Well, it goes back to that idea of putting in the work, right? I mean, we've got to continue to work at ourselves. There's no plateau, right? We've got to keep pushing and building and finding ways to put ourselves on higher ground. But yeah, you're 100% right, man. Your recall has to be yesterday, not 10 years ago.
Yeah. Let me tell you a cool situation, right? So we have decided, and again, I hate to throw this out because I don't kill it. I attack it for 2 days, and then I'm on to the next thing, right? So our one thing for the next 100 days, the Freeman family is reading the Book of Mormon, the most correct book on the earth, from cover to cover. Okay. Right? So we made this commitment. I was, we've been talking about 100-day challenge and kind of stewing on what is it going to be. Grace has 100 days left in the mission. So we're like, here we go. This is what we're going to do. Joseph Smith translated the thing in 85 days. We can read this thing in 100 days.
Yeah.
Right. So we're in. The unfortunate thing was Abe wasn't on the call.
Okay.
When we made this challenge, right? So Abe literally went to school, to golf practice, to work. He comes stumbling in at 9:30 with a quesadilla, and he's like, "What's happened?" I'm like, "Let me just break this down for you.
Yeah.
This is what we want to do." And I'm sure his eyes rolled because I'm sure he's probably heard Dad do something like this before.
Right.
Right. Or come out gangbusters. This is what we're going to do. Well, so we start. Right. He's eating his quesadilla. So I'm like, you don't need to come up with this challenge. We're doing it. You can join or not. Right. So Kelly and I, we're sitting on the couch. We're reading, bouncing back and forth. Introduction. I read a paragraph. She reads a paragraph. I read a paragraph. She reads a paragraph. Pretty soon after her, Abe picks up the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Reading from his phone. Right.
Right.
I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're doing it. But that idea of like, I want to meet her with some spiritual momentum. I won't be on her level because she's had 18 months of dedicating her life, losing her life.
Right.
In the service of other people, right? You can't replicate that, but I want to create some spiritual momentum for the Freeman family. So we're drawing closer to God by reading the Book of Mormon over the next 100 days. So
I love it, man. I love it.
Right. Wish us luck. But let me throw something out here, man.
Yeah.
You know Dave Specht.
I do.
Dave Specht's dad passed away.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So shout out to the Specht family. Cliff Specht was a champ. I never met him, but I know Dave, and I know Dave's love for his dad, and I know their hearts are a little tender these days, right?
Yeah.
So we're thinking about you, Dave. Dave texted me before his dad passed away. I knew that his dad was struggling with some health. Dave texted me and said, "Hey, do you have a gentleman by the name of this in Reading?
Yeah.
In your stake, right?"
Okay.
I was like, I don't know. I don't recognize the name, but let me check it out. So I look him up, and sure enough, it's like, yeah, he's here. I got his address here. He's, I don't know if he's coming to church. And Dave's like, you know what? He's trying because he's here. He's been here for the last 2 weeks. He's my dad's best friend.
Huh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Small world, man.
My dad's best friend, and he's been here taking care of my dad.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. So I make a note. Well, his dad passed away. And his dad's friend had come back to Reading. So Dave texted me. He's like, man, I don't know if you heard, my dad passed away. Can you go visit my dad's friend? He's really struggling.
Yeah.
So I sneak away and I meet Dave Specht's dad's best friend that lives in my freaking hometown.
Yeah.
How cool is this, right?
Yeah, right.
He's older. He's a former marathon runner, and his body's been through it. So I pull up to his house, and he's laying down pulling weeds. Right?
You get on their level, Yeah,
get on your level.
Yeah.
So I go up, I'm white shirt and tying it. It's middle of the day, right?
Yeah.
I'm white shirt and tying it, and I walk up, and he's like, hey, can I help you? I'm like, I hope so. My name is Mike. And I couldn't even say the whole thing. As soon as I said Mike, this dude was scrambling to get up.
Nice.
Wanted to get up, comes up, hugs me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, you're a friend of Cliff Specht. Like, and he starts getting emotional.
Uh-huh.
We go in, we sit down, and it's like, talk to me about your friend Cliff. And he breaks it down, right? Freshman year in high school. From then on, we were inseparable. And so we find some comfort. Man. We find some comfort in a mutual faith that he has. And he tells me about his family. And it was kind of cool. And then he's like, can I take a picture and send it to Dave?
Nice, dude. I love it.
So we're hanging out, and he takes a picture, sends it to Dave. I go on with my day, and my phone blows up a couple hours later, and Dave Specht's giving me some thanks for visiting his dad's friend. And he said, hey, thanks for doing that. You honored my dad that day.
Yeah. Love it, man.
And you know what did it for me?
What's that?
In Dave's text, when he asked if I could go visit, he said, would you do that for me?
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? What a cool invitation. What a cool way to invite somebody, right? And maybe those are magic. They almost felt like magic words, right? Maybe as we're trying to lift other people, maybe as we're trying to help other people, we could use some of that, right?
Yeah.
Hey, would you do this for me? For me, right?
Right.
Using that relationship, using the history that we have with people.
Yeah.
What do you think, man? Don't do it for you right now. Maybe you don't do it for you right now. What do you say?
I love it, man.
Would you do that for me? I'm gonna try to use that. I think it's magic.
I think that's a hard one to turn down, man.
Yeah.
One to turn down, especially if you've got some equity in that relationship, right?
Yeah. You want to talk about best of times, worst of times, man. That same day, I'm hanging out at our juvenile court school, juvenile hall.
Yeah.
Run into a former student.
Hey, that's all right. Redemption is around the corner.
Exactly, right? Redemption is around the corner. I'm like, get over here. We sit down. I pour into that kid. I'm like, let's talk. Look around. It's very clear. This is a wonderful reset, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
This is a wonderful reset. Look around. You have ample evidence that the choices you were making weren't working for you, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to do different? Totally thinking of Travis Ritchie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pen is in your hand. Let's freaking redefine who you are.
That's it, man. Yeah,
right?
I love it, man.
He's talking to me. He's telling me all these things. I'm like, I don't really care why you're in, but let's figure this out. Let's do an autopsy. What's the common denominator?
Yeah.
And he said,
plan?
He said, Mr. Freeman, it's alcohol.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's beat the heck out of that. Let's attack that. Right? You got some time away from it. Let's get a plan. Because I got to warn you, man, your buddies are still partying. And they're ready for you. When you come out, they're going to be, they want to throw it down with you.
Yeah.
What are we going to do different? Right? What are we going to do to change that? So thinking of that guy, I love it, man. It was kind of cool. And he saw me and was like, and once we get talking, he's like, man, I saw you. And I was like, oh man, he's going to be disappointed. I'm like, no, like I could tell you some stories, right? I'm not going to, I don't need to, because that's who I was, not who I am.
But you know what? Honestly, that's
Let's talk about who you're going to be.
That's a good place to be, though, when you've done some things and you see some people and you think, man, they're going to be disappointed. Like, honestly, like to me, like that's a good sign, right?
I think that's a good place.
Yeah, because if you're like, you know what, who cares what these people think? This guy. Yeah. That's a tough spot to be in, right?
Get out of here.
Yeah. I think if your mindset is, man, I don't want to let some of these people down, you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot to rebound, man.
Yeah.
So I love it.
I'm a big fan of that bounce back, right? Like it's wonderful when life truly presents you a bottom.
Right?
You are at the bottom, brother. Right now, bottom. Let's go.
In 100 and some episodes, I think what I've learned is that Justin sums it up great, right? Redemption is around the corner. This setback's going to be my comeback, right? I mean, we've had so many people, Alan Michael Boston talking about leaning in to the pain, right? And kind of getting yourself through it. And there's been so many examples of people that have gone through some tough stuff that have turned it around. And it's cool to hear someone say, man, that guy I don't want him to be disappointed in me. I think that's a good place.
Yeah. It's almost like, okay, let's use that, right?
Yeah.
Let's use that. Let's see what we can do with that feeling.
Let's build on it, man.
Yeah. Let that grow up in you a little bit.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff
cool things, man. Best of times, worst of times. In the end, pretty cool day.
Yeah, I think isn't how the days usually go, right? Sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the nail, but it's all right. Life is good.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've been together, but I think we've had a good run of some pretty insightful guests lately. And I want to throw a shout out. We brought my brother on. My brother celebrated his birthday the other day, so I wanted to give him a belated birthday.
As did his wife.
Gig that he's got.
Yeah.
He's got a couple clients, man.
I love it, man. I love it.
That's what happens. You throw it out there and you just
you're manifesting
think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I like it, man. I'm a supporter of it. Hey, look, man, we've got some good stuff coming, and I'm excited about our next couple of episodes that we have booked. I mean, I think we're booked out through the next couple of months, but I would say, for those, I would love to hear.
Is this a call to action?
Yeah, I would love to hear from our listeners about what they're doing to to build momentum in their lives, to delete the things that they don't want in their lives, to attack, right? How are they attacking? What's working for you? I mean, I'm all about figuring out the best way to be the best and kill it, man. That's tough. Life is tough and life is busy, and I was just talking to my wife today. I said, if the two of us sat down today and we each had a piece of paper and a pen, we could fill that sheet 2 or 3 times over with reasons why we can't do certain things in our lives, right? But we're not going to do that, because we're going to take our busy lives, we're going to look at what we need in our lives, and we're going to find time to make sure that that's a priority in our lives. And I think that's a possibility, but there's things that have to be prioritized in that process.
Yeah, something's got to go.
Something's got to go, man. Something's got to go
for something to stay, right?
Yeah. I love it, Mike.
I'm going to take that app, man. I'm going to kill my one thing.
I'll send it to you, man. It's good.
I'm going to kill my one thing. And right now, that one thing's got to be 5.3 pages of the Book of Mormon every day, man. I got to get there.
You got to get after it, dude. The app is called Habit, just so you know. And
this episode brought to you by Habit.
Habit.
Not the burger place.
No, not the burger place. In fact, that would go against what I'm trying to form as my habit. but I am 53% there on my habit that I'm working on.
Nice.
So, yeah. A little bit more work to go.
Love it.
All right, man. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to hearing about the 100 days.
Yeah, you know what? I always love these little breaks, right? I always love when we're guest to guest to guest. I love my guests, right? I love what they bring to our episodes, especially this latest round. But I love every once in a while, brother, just sitting down with you, making meaning, right? Eyeball to eyeball, like, how you doing? Where are you at with things?
Yeah,
and like let's get this going, right?
Yeah, I agree, man. I appreciate the conversation today. It's been a ton of fun, and I'm looking forward to what we've got going on next week, man.
We got work to do. We're not done.
We're not done. All right, brother. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.